Hi guys, it's Lynnea and I'm here with two new stamp sets from the Kindred Stamps January 2020 release. These are Doodle Alphabet stamp sets, Doodle uppercase and Doodle lowercase. And I'm going to create a couple of cards with some simple backgrounds using these two stamp sets. So to start off with here, I wanted to keep the Doodle uppercase stamp set the absolute way that it was. I thought it would make such a fun background. So I'm going to take some purple tape, any kind of masking tape will work here, and I'm going to put this onto this large stamp set. And you want to have it so that you are, when you flip this around so you can read the stamp set, you have the tape sticky side up. I'm going to add some pieces of tape on all four sides, and this way I can just add it into my MISTI, and I'm going to be able to stamp this as if it was one large background stamp. I'm going to just place this in my MISTI, and then I will press down and kind of flip this over so that I can make sure that this is adhered onto the door of my MISTI. Now I have some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I added some repositionable tape onto the back of it. I'm going to position that where I want it to be on that stamp set, and then I'm going to turn my MISTI over and press this closed, and the repositionable tape will stick to the foam pad in my MISTI. And that way I have my cardstock exactly lined up right where I want it to be, and I'm going to be able to stamp that alphabet. I'm going to add some of that powder tool across my cardstock, and then I'll use my Versamark ink just to ink up the Doodle uppercase stamp set, and I'll stamp this down, and I'll be able to heat emboss this with some white powder. And I love the way this turns out. This is such a cool idea, and I actually use this technique a lot of times for when I'm stamping out full stamp sets. That way I don't have to take all those little stamps off. I can just stamp them all at once rather than stamping them individually. For this next card, I'm going to mix both the Doodle uppercase and the Doodle lowercase stamp set, and I'm going to kind of use it the way that it was intended. So I'm going to build words. From the Doodle uppercase stamp set, I'll be using the word hello, and from the Doodle lowercase, I'll be stamping the word friend. So the whole sentiment will read hello friend. And it's all in that same Doodle font, but I love that you can mix and match the uppercase and the lowercase letters. Again, I'm working on Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to just arrange these the way that I want them to be, and then I can stamp them down all at once, ink them up with my Versamark ink, stamp it, and then I will again use some white fine detail embossing powder to emboss this sentiment. Now I needed to have a double L in hello, and so I decided to just stamp the first three letters, the H, the E, and the L, and then I can stamp and heat emboss the second L and the O separately. And here you can see kind of how that white embossing powder is going to show up on the white cardstock. I'm going to be doing some resist technique, so that white embossing powder will pop out as I do some watercoloring over this. Now you can use any kind of inks if you want to do ink blending over this. That'll make that white embossing powder pop out, or watercoloring. I decided to use my Arteza Real Brush markers here. So I can definitely see the markers that I use most often, because this one is kind of getting a little dry, but there is still some ink left in there. And it doesn't really matter. See how it kind of looks scratchy now? That absolutely doesn't even matter at all, because I'm going to come in with a water brush, and I'll use the water to smooth and blend out that color. And you can see already that color is moving and it's working. I just love how these markers react with the water. So I'll start with the dark and just blend that out a little bit, and I'm coming up a little bit past halfway with that darker teal color. I'm going to wipe my brush off just a little bit, and then I will come in and I'll start working the top with that kind of tea-ish green color. I'm going to bring this color up and down and just keep working my brush back and forth until my whole background is filled and flooded with that color. I just love the way this looks and the way these colors blend together. I think that looks super awesome. I use my heat tool to completely dry this background. And now I'm going to make those words, the hello friend, pop out a little bit more. You could definitely leave it as it is. I think that white definitely shows and you can tell what it's saying. But I decided to go in with an even darker teal color and just kind of add a little bit of the color around the outside edges of the letters, and I'll use a water brush to blend out that color, and that's going to really define those letters, and you're going to be able to see that awesome doodle stamp set and that font. I finished that up and dried it with a heat tool completely, and there's my first card. I'm going to be doing pretty much the same thing with the second card, except I'm not going to go in and define and really make all those different letters pop out. There's a whole lot more on this background, so I decided that I would just leave this as the simple emboss resist technique. I'm going to go in with 3 different shades of pink. That first one is a super light, kind of like a bubblegum pink, and then I have a coral color in the middle, and this purpley pink color at the bottom. Again, just quickly laying down some color. It doesn't matter that it doesn't go all the way to the edge or that it looks scratchy, because I'm going to come in with my water brush and I'm just going to keep working this until all that color is blended together. This took a little bit more time to blend than my blue-green background, just because these colors are a little bit more contrasting. So especially once I got down to that purple color, it took a little bit of time to go back and forth. But that's all you really have to do, is just keep going back and forth, moving that color up, bringing the color down, and eventually it will all blend together. As I was finishing up blending the watercolor onto this second card, I realized that I didn't really have a sentiment for it. So I decided to keep this simple and just die cut a really simple hello sentiment, because I wanted that doodle uppercase background to really make this card shine. I'll add a little bit of glitter to that die cut sentiment, and these 2 cards are done. I hope that you've enjoyed the look at this new Kindred Stamps Doodle Alpha, the uppercase and the lowercase stamp sets. I'll see you soon. Bye!